Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be covering another character within the Outlast universe.
Hold on, I can't hear you. It's too you ready? Please. Hold on. Wait, hold on. What did you say?
Today we are covering Eddie Gluskin, the groom, the man downstairs, the thing below, Mr. Gluskin. This guy, when he first came on the screens back like in 2013, 2014, when Outlast first came out, had everybody, it just had YouTube in shambles when it came to what he was doing to the inmates within the asylum and what he attempted to do to Waylon. If my content interests you, stick around as we're going to dive into who exactly is Eddie Gluskin.
I shall deliver your punishment.
Suckers, you think you can break me like that? With an animal carcass?
Is that you, sweet pea?
You should have burned down this bounty, Talos.
I'll see you soon.
Starting this video off, Eddie is a very tall and muscular man. He is middle-aged with a black, slick-back, disconnected, undercut hairstyle that is neatly combed down, and he has light blue eyes. Due to his exposure to the morphogenic engine, his face is covered with red scabs, skin is peeling, and he has a severe case of hemorrhage in both eyes, the right one more than the left. He gives off an old school gentleman vibe because his clothing is a white dress shirt. It is stained, but the sleeves are rolled up lightly. He has a dark blue bow tie and a matching waistcoat, and he also has black fingerless gloves, matching work boots, belts, cargo pants, and even armbands. Everything he's wearing is matching from top to bottom.
I know you can stop this. You have to help me. You have to.
Hey, calm yourself. This is a high security...
It's all right, Agent. Mr. Hart was just surprised.
Now diving into Mr. Gluskin's story, so he first appears in Outlast Whistleblower. He's actually the patient that they forced into that glass sphere. Now after that, and then the whole asylum has to break out with the patients and people dying left and right, including security guards, other patients, and even the doctors, you run into Eddie again. I'm trying my best to explain this. So the area where you have to turn off the power to get to a different location is when you run into him. There's a document called Kill Us, and if you look up and zoom in with the camcorder, you will see Eddie standing in the hallway, and then he will disappear. Now at some point you collapse through a roof that connects to an attic, and within that attic you encounter this guy named Dennis. Dennis is going to be a completely different video, but Dennis basically lures you into going into the basement. So that is his present to Gluskin, you the bride. So when you get down there, you don't run into Eddie like first thing. You see a lot of weird stuff. Like you will see like a mutilated body, you will see like another body mutilated with like a head coming out as if the person is pregnant, but these are all men that has been mutilated by Eddie to fit his perfect image, because again he wants to have like a nuclear family. Now fast forward, eventually you get to the door, and now you're actually introduced to Eddie officially. He sees you, he calls you darling, and he starts singing this song. You hear him talking, you're avoiding him. He comes off charming, which I will talk about in his personality, but he comes off charming, but the moment that he catches you, he beats you up. So he's abusive. Now with all of that being said, you do run away from him. You had to escape from him using the elevator shaft, and you end up injuring yourself, and he gets upset about it because he thinks that you would rather die than be with him, and then he tells you, well, die then. Crazy, right? And you run across him again, and he still comes off very charming and everything, but whenever he finally gets you, which you isolate yourself inside of a locker, he gasses you, telling you this will help calm you down.
Smell of my love's arbor. Darling. You make yourself forgive. A delicacy to be unwrapped and unwrapped again. Savored. Here we go. I've been vulgar. And I want to say I'm sorry. You know how a man gets what he wants to know. But after the ceremony, I made an honest woman of you. I promise. You'll be a different man. I want a family, a legacy, to be the father I never had. I'll never let anything happen to our children. Not like... I have to wait here. I know you must be just as eager as I am to consummate our love. But try to join the anticipation. Here, darling. This will help you.
You wake up 12 hours later seeing that he's mutilating other inmate, and it's just a lot. So as you're watching all of this happen and unfold within the game, you may question yourself, like, what exactly happened to Eddie? Like, why is he this abusive and has this violent tendency when it comes to men? Well, when you find the documentation within the game, you learn that he was abused by his father and uncle, and they took photos of that incident. That is crazy for me to say it out loud, and how he acts within the game makes a lot of sense. He wasn't old enough to know what was happening was wrong, and yes, his father and uncle was eventually like arrested, but as a coping mechanism for that traumatic event in his upbringing, he has a leave it to beaver home mindset. And before he was admitted to Mount Massive Asylum, he was a serial killer. He was mutilating women. So how he was treating these men in the asylum, that's how he was treating these women, and all of this stems from his childhood where he was sexually abused as a child.
Rather die than be with me. Die.
Now, diving into his personality, I know that I mentioned in his physical appearance that he gives off an old school gentleman vibe, and his personality also follow along with that. He gives me very much nuclear family vibes because he wants to be the husband, he wants a perfect wife, and then he wants kids, right? So he is a very family oriented man. He is falling around Waylon, telling him how he wishes he can have a family and a child to live his legacy, and he refuses to let their children get hurt. And when you come across him within the asylum, he comes off very charming. He's always singing the song I Want a Girl.
When I was a boy, get married. I am moving all over. Just like the girl that married year-old dad. She was a girl, and the only girl that Daddy ever had. A good old-fashioned girl with
and how he calls you darling, and he wants to take care of you, and he wants to have a family and kids, have this big happy nuclear family, as I mentioned earlier. So with all that being said, he hates being rejected because he goes from this idea of you being the perfect bride, and then now that you want to leave him, he wants to be violent, he wants to insult you.
All of you, all judgment, you little swinish eyes. Physics sucks. You're like all the others. Don't deserve my children. Don't even deserve to live.
He will put his hands on you, especially in the scene where you're trying to escape within the gymnasium. When you escape from the gymnasium, you get the key and try to continue going on in the asylum. He like grabs you and beats you up, and he's mad because you want to leave him.
One more. I tried. You all betrayed me. You can hang like the rest of them.
So he is charming, but if you ever want to leave this man, or if he feels like you rather hurt yourself or be dead without him, then he's going to be very violent and very insulting to you, and he will make sure that you feel his wrath. However, I did touch about this a little bit in the background. So as I mentioned in his background, he is unfortunately a victim of SA with his father and his uncle, right? So when it comes to the men within the asylum, so of course he's trying to have them do the sex change and make them into the perfect bride for him. But he got to get rid of the vulgar parts, which is usually the penises and testicles and the excessive body hair, right? And then he'll use all that stuff to make the breast. That is important to talk about when it comes to his personality, because when he was presented photographic evidence of the abuse, his response is a mixture of laughter and anger, and restraints were issued on him. And this is all within the documentation that you find within the asylum. Now, whenever he is asked about the victims, he refuses to admit that he kills the victim, so he's in denial when it comes to his victims within the asylum, or even like people beforehand. He just refuses to admit that he kills his victims, and he will not admit that they are dead or they've been mutilated. Like, he refused to acknowledge that, and it all stems from him being SA'd as a child. It's like this is his way to get his perfect bride, going through the method of changing these men. But when it comes to him being faced with what he has done, he is quick to deny it.
You could have been beautiful.
Sending this video off with some random trivia. First piece of trivia is one of the notes that Waylon writes within the game is comparing him to Bluebeard. Now, Bluebeard is a French folk tale of a serial killer who killed many wives save for one woman who managed to outsmart him. So it is a little similar with those two, especially with him being a serial killer before he was admitted, and he was out there murdering all these different women, and now he's in this asylum trying to find the perfect wife and have children with, and that person was supposed to be Waylon, but we outsmarted him and killed him. Another piece of trivia is that the song that Eddie sings is I Want a Girl. Now, I know I mentioned this earlier in the video, and you already know that he sings I Want a Girl. However, this is also used in the trailer for Outlast Whistleblower, and it's heard playing on the radio in the background when Waylon comes climbing down those attic stairs. And in the first half of the song, it's actually boy, but Gluskin replaced it with son. And one last piece of trivia, you can compare Eddie to Trigger. The main reason is because they're both antagonists that are tormenting the main protagonist. For example, you have Trigger cutting off the fingers of Miles, and then you have Eddie attempting to cut off Waylon's penis. On top of that, they both have a similar quote when they're talking about the protagonist. They always talking about that you're heavier than you look. You have Trigger saying that whenever he either picks you up out of the elevator or he picks you up at some point. And then you have Eddie saying it whenever he's in the gymnasium and he's trying to hang you with all the other inmates.
Heavier than you look. A little cardio wouldn't kill you. Okay, here we go. Arms and legs inside the car at all times.
Heavier than you look. This is you on the honeymoon. Hate to imagine.
Even though their chase scenes are intense, it always ends with one of them, not even one of them, they both ended up dying. You have Trigger dying from the elevator, and then you have Eddie getting impaled by a pole. Now, I know I said that was the last piece of trivia, but this is the last piece of trivia I'm going to include. So whenever you first come across Eddie, when you exit out of the attic, he actually tells you that you look familiar. So he does remember you from the beginning. So
Did I frighten you? I'm awfully sorry, I didn't mean to. We've met before. I know, I've seen your face.
lately, just before I woke up.
And that is all that I have for today's video. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching my content. If you enjoyed the video, give me a huge thumbs up. Comment down below who you would like me to cover next. Right now, I'm kind of in between Chris Walker and Trigger. For the next video, I will link a playlist at the end where I have covered the prime assets and the X pops and general pops within the Outlast trials. And again, if you are actively playing the Outlast trials, good luck on your therapy, and I'll see you next time.
This is a little extra.